Welcome to our first episode of Paper Gold, an ongoing book hunters conversation, Excavation, episode 1. In this weekly 60-minute series, we're going to be talking to members of our Paper Gold Patreon group, and we are going to be doing deep dives into their businesses and their stores and answering all their questions. And we want to pursue the evolution of making their stores better and better as we progress going into 2024.
I'm Cody. I am an Amazon bulk seller. Been selling for about 3 years, picking through that kind of stuff, and just grown to target all types of media, barcodes, non-barcodes, all the above. Max, a little bit about you before we get into it as well.
Full-time eBay seller, retired high school teacher, just about 20,000 books in inventory on my store, selling internationally every day, and definitely specializing in the non-barcode book variety, hard to find and more rare books, but using the Patreon and Zoom call to help other people out there who want to grow their businesses in the book world. Definitely want to give back to the community and the book business that was so kind to me and good to me as I was still teaching and doing this as a part-time job and has allowed me to go full-time.
I'm Robbie. I have been selling books on Amazon since July of this year, so July 2023, averaging about a couple $100 a month. And so I know I needed to up my game and found out about you guys through someone else and made a couple sales already. So within 2 months, I've made some sales. Once I started posting, people started buying, and just looking to up my game and be able to know the ins and outs of non-barcoded books and things that people are looking for in order to sell. And my goals are to make as much as possible.
Robbie, do you already have a plan for 2024, or is that something we're going to be working on in the coming weeks?
That's definitely what we're going to be working on.
Love to hear that.
My name's Ray Parker. I live just north of Williamsburg, Virginia, just south of Richmond, Virginia, so right in that middle ground. And I've been doing eBay for about 2 years. I've been doing Amazon for about 9 months, and just recently got the buy box back, so I've been pushing hard on the book side. I'm trying to get to a point where I can handle bulk, but right now I've got so much free stuff headed my way thanks to a newspaper ad that I placed telling folks, hey, call me for a free book pickup. And it's getting crazy. So that's really where I want 2024 to go. I want to go heavier on books. I want to slowly reduce a lot of the stuff that I'm selling on eBay because worshiping two gods is wearing me out. And so I want to really get heavier on the Amazon and book side.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so I guess Ray's got you you're higher up in the queue. You were here earlier, so we'll go ahead and start with you. So correct me, give me, if you were to say, what is the biggest pain point in your business right now? If you could get it resolved today, what would the biggest pain point be for you?
Organization. Because every day I work out of my garage, and every day I walk in this door, I have kind of an idea of what I want to attack first. And on eBay side, I have a workflow. I know what I want to do first. Click, 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 check the boxes. Okay, eBay is now done for now. Let's attack Amazon. And I get to Amazon, and then I'm like, there's a book, and I just don't really have a smooth workflow. And that's really where I'm lacking.
Okay, so just off the rip, are you already making sales and profit on Amazon, or are you just kind of breaking even, or are you where do you stay? Like, how much inventory do you have? What are your sales like right now?
My sales are good. I'm usually every 2 weeks, I'm bringing in anywhere from 300, sometimes as high as 800 every 2 weeks, that check that they send me.
Okay.
And obviously I really want to ramp that up. And then inventory, I've got a ton. Every time I start, I get a phone call saying, hey, I've got books, come get them. Okay, gotcha. I'm never turning that down, so I'll stop what I'm doing and go get it. So inventory, if I had to completely take a stab at it, I've probably got 15 to 20,000 books right now in inventory that I haven't even scanned yet.
How much do you have right now that's ready to go into Amazon that just hasn't been sent into Amazon yet? If you were to put not an exact number, but just give me kind of a rough idea.
The stuff that I've scanned and haven't sent yet is probably around 1,000 books. Okay. And in fact, I just this morning, because starting today, I'm going to start sending 60 pieces, books, CDs, DVDs, cassettes, and maybe even albums, 60 pieces a day for the next I'm going to try to start doing that 5 days a week.
So you're saying basically like 60 units that get sent into Amazon every day?
Right. 'Cause I
Okay.
want to do 300 a week. I want to do
All right.
300 units a week.
So my first recommendation, now this is not necessarily the cheapest way, but I think is going to be the best way. Is something that when I was in your exact position like a couple years ago, I wish I would have just went ahead and this is actually what we're going to be talking about a little bit this coming week as well. But bite the bullet, get yourself a lister. Okay, what listing software are you using? GoToLister, is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, so then you know how easy it is to list, right? I recently, within the past month, a little over a month now, have acquired a lister for me for Amazon, and my wife is the one who taught them how to list, and she's not really in the book game, but I showed her, and she lists for me before during the summer when she's not teaching, and 3 hours. This guy has never done anything with Amazon, never done any of this stuff before. 3 hours. After 3 hours of training, he comes by once a week. He picks up crates of books and he lists for me. It allows people to have the freedom to, work with whatever schedule they need based off of what their hours are. And the way I'm doing it currently is I'm paying him 45 cents per listing plus
Okay.
$2 per box he completes on top of that. So he usually does about 5 boxes a week, but it has been so good for my workflow because it's like you said, you just have so much stuff you have to scan, but then you have so much stuff you have to list, and then you have to move stuff. Your main priority before anything else is getting that inventory in. Now you want to go. I would highly recommend just going back through and verifying everything that you're putting into these boxes for them, because if you do all the work to make sure that what you have is the right listing, it's a profitable book at those margins, he can't mess it up. The only thing that is the challenge is teaching them how to condition a book. That's it. Or for me personally, I also deal with a lot of the antiquarian books on Amazon, and so in that market there tends to be prices that are inaccurate often. As like let's say that a book is there's 5 copies up, but they're up for $150, but when you check Keepa, you're like, okay, this book sells for 50. What I do, like when it actually is selling, people have it up for 50. So what I'll do is I'll put a sticky note, or on the barcode I print out, I just write the total. I'm like $20. And then instead of him having to figure that out, or you having to figure it out later, you just have it to where he'll put that Amazon ASIN over into a separate document for you that's shared on Google, and you'll just know after it's listed to go into your repricer and set adjustments so that it doesn't reprice your book against the other books that aren't selling because they're priced too high. Is
Okay.
that, you follow me on that?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I'm getting the gist
No,
of it.
yeah, I want you to make sure you do, because I don't want to. If it sounds confusing, tell me, because I want to phrase it in a way that makes sense, because this is really important. It's really really
Ray, are you using a repricer currently?
Yeah, I use Reprice It.
Okay,
not a
so
bad choice.
that's going to definitely help the cause. Cody,
Yeah.
before you jump in on the continuation of that, I think the one thing that Ray has to look at is Ray's bringing in a lot of books every day. I mean, he told us he has calls every day coming in. Ray, I think one thing you need to look at though is whatever you're bringing into the garage or the storage shed, is there a percentage of books or things in maybe poor condition that that you can just get rid of right off the bat before they even make it to some place that's going to occupy space that's going to be money for you? If you do a house call and you pick up 12 boxes and 3 boxes are just trashed magazines, water damage, don't even bother with those. Get rid of those right off the bat and create more space coming in to your environment.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that I do, and I practice this every day, is I do not like to have books in boxes. Books in boxes mean they're unlisted, and I want to be able to see what they are. So I've already spoken to you about this early on in our relationship, but you should have bookshelves in your garage right now. There doesn't need to be an order yet, but at least you're going to start visually understanding what type of collections you have. And you already are spotting the money books just because you're getting better and better at it. And you'll be able to pull those money books out from those shelves, but inside of a box, they're hidden, they're disguised, and you don't know what you have.
Yeah, as soon as I come home, I have a pole barn. We live out in the sticks, and I have a pole barn outside. And as soon as I pull my truck in, as soon as that box comes out of the truck, I look through it, like you just said. I try to sort out the junk because I don't even want it coming in the garage because now that's moving stuff that I know I'm just going to get rid of anyway. So I do my pre-sorting out there.
Good.
And then it comes in here, then like you said, and I do have a bookshelf. Everything I have in here is my merchant fulfilled stuff.
Mhm.
So I've got that right here. And so I pull from that and ship and when it sells. And that's another thing. My merchant fulfilled stuff doesn't sell. I wish it sold a lot faster because I've got quality stuff here, but for some reason, my merchant fulfilled just doesn't move.
It's just quantity. It's quantity and making sure what you have listed merchant fulfilled is actually a good merchant fulfilled book. Because just because again anybody can list a book at a certain price, but if you're not checking Keepa to see why that rank is so high, and you're not adjusting your prices for those books accordingly, they're not going to sell. They're not, like, it goes right back to that example. Like, like if a book is a 3 million ranked book or a 4 million ranked book and it's profiting you $150, every single time a book like that comes across my desk or my boxes, whatever it might be,
Right.
I immediately check Keepa to verify that, because it's worth your time to do that. I mean, you do currently have Keepa and understand how to use that?
I have the free Chrome plugin. I've tried multiple times to sign up for Keepa, but every time I do some foreign country website and it says, don't go past this, you can't do this, and I have to back out. So I have never had the paid version of Keepa.
You 100% need Keepa, because not only for your merchant fulfilled books, but for your FBA books, because there are plenty of long tail FBA books that you could be sending in that are going to profit you in a great way. Like where they say there's no current FBA offers. But I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I kind of want to go back to what we were talking about real quick. I would 100% recommend just getting a lister to start with if you can. It doesn't have to be somebody that comes into your warehouse every day. It can be somebody that you can send these things to, the books to, something like that. If I could go back in time and tell myself to do that, I would. It's going to cost you money at the start, but it's going to allow you to continue to process what you currently have and have money start to come in.
Right.
It's compounding. You're going to be able to get these books that you're finding, that you're able to identify as the valuable books, and have them go in and have money coming in at the same time. In 30 days, you're going to see double your sales. I'm almost certain of it. And if you choose not to go that route, I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, because I've been there before and I've had to make this decision, is put a pause. Put a pause on these pickups that you're doing. It sucks and it's not what you want to hear, but you've got to get your stuff listed before anything else. So we'll kind of go into a workflow and organization here in a second, but as far as like what I personally think as an Amazon seller, as a reseller in general, you have money and your money is sitting there, and that is this business is nothing without the money coming in. So you've got to first and foremost get Keepa, because you want to identify these oddball books, because the oddball books with no listings or high prices that don't make sense can sometimes be I mean, they could profit you what 50 of your other units would profit you. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be the same as like $55 books in one book sold on Amazon. If you take anything away from today, it is whichever way you choose to do it, either pause picking up or pay somebody to do your listing for you. It's got to be one of those two things, man, because you're going to burn yourself out. I know it doesn't look organized right here behind me, because I try to be transparent about everything, but I have learned how to do a organization in a sense of having a queue for everything. A queue is super, super important, in my opinion, for understanding what your profit from your sources are. So you can learn, like, okay, I've got so many pickups that I can't afford to keep doing all of these. You can go back in time and look and see, like, okay, what am I profiting? Because in GoToLister, you can put in your source. So you can put in your for these books,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
you can go through and look for the past 6 months, like, okay, what is my profit from this place or that place, and you can learn what fat you should be cutting out at that point if you choose to.
Right.
um
Right.
And
so
Ray, correct me if I'm wrong. We did talk about that you have a college within your vicinity.
I do. William and Mary.
There's no reason, Cody's stressing to you the importance of the employee. I think that if what you're doing now isn't working, then you have to, as a businessman, you have to try something different. And
Right.
the difference maker for you right now, unequivocally, is going to William and Mary and finding someone to help you get out of this, because it's a simple procedure Cody's stressing to you about, but you're going to have to bring someone in, which is an investment to your business. And the more you get listed, and we all know the answer to this, the more you get listed, the more you're going to sell.
if finances are a stress, which I understand if they are, then I would then do the other route and pause on the picking and just go through what you have. Get yourself you're not going to be able to build an organization in what you have currently. It's just not going to happen. You've got
Yeah.
too many books everywhere. You've got books that need to be listed. You don't have an organization. If you don't process what you have and get yourself started in the right way, it's not going to happen. So one way or the other, I 100% think that's
Yeah.
important to what
Yeah.
you need to do.
You don't
Um,
have, it doesn't have to be this hard and this much of a grind every morning for you to start. Like Cody says, Cody is a mastermind at the organization of bringing books in from the outside into his warehouse. And I agree with him 100%. I think you do need to bring someone in from the outside, but I would also like to see you have books on shelves that instead of boxes.
to that point, Max, if you don't mind, I kind of have a little bit of my organization that I'd like
Please.
to go through, because though bookshelves would definitely be helpful.
Mm.
I know that when you're buying in bulk and picking up in bulk like I do, bookshelves aren't gonna, like, it's just not possible. You can't, you'll fill up all your shelves on half of one pickup sometimes. I kind of brought these up because these are something I picked up recently. I don't know if you can see. Now,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to buy these for a good price if you just order them online, but you can find stuff like this. I got a whole pallet of these. I paid $4 a piece on them. They have been amazing for not only my back, which is the main reason I went to this, but for storage. They're collapsible
Oh,
totes,
bro.
and they stack on top of each other.
Oh
It
my God.
is it has been a game changer because I don't have to lift boxes. I can put them on my dolly, fill them in, put them on my dolly. They stack on top of each other. I have a wheelchair ramp that rolls up into the back of my truck. Everything is just like as easy on my back as it can be, because that has been one of the issues I've had, which is just uh what kind of toll this can play on your physical body doing stuff like this, as I'm sure you're
Yeah.
experiencing yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So you do have a dolly, right?
Yes, I have a
Okay,
dolly.
yeah. Okay,
But
yeah. So that
I just told the wife, I'm tired of buying Home Depot and Lowe's boxes that I get to use once or twice, and they get worn out from boxes in, books out, moving around. I'm spending quite a bit of money. The amount of money I've spent on cardboard boxes in the last 3 months could have bought me a warehouse of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that.
Yeah, and you could, and I found mine. I have two different versions. One wasn't as tough as this. They're actually not really meant to, like, you don't want to be lifting them because as much, because they're not made for that kind of weight. But if you can really stack, and it's going to take more time than your normal pickups do. But if you can stack them and in there by size and get as much as you can, that's going to cut down a lot on your storage space as well. Like, you would be surprised at if you're able to organize your books a little bit in how you fill up a box versus just throwing them in there, what kind of difference you're going to have in how much space all of those books are going to take up inside your
Yeah.
warehouse. But yeah, definitely try and get something like that, even if it's just you go on Facebook and you find totes, because totes are going to be reusable.
Yep.
You can stack them. They're not as easy to stack, but you can stack them, and you can just make sure they're the same size so that when you're done, you can kind of stack them into each other and keep them out of the way. Um, but yeah, that that is 100% what I think you should focus on, dude.
Yeah, because it seems like every time I have a book pickup, they're on the top floor.
Mm.
Always stairs, and there's always. I'm like, God, can't anything ever be on ground level? And I get there, and they're just like, Hey, come here, look at these books, and I go upstairs, and it's great. And I'm like, I'm literally 1, 2, 3, 4, already counting the steps I know I'm going to be making, and I get up there, and like you just said, I sort them. As soon as I get in there, okay, these are going to go, and I have them piled per box or tote box for me recently. And then that's how I've been doing that. But I'm actually selling my truck. I got a short bed truck that I love, but it doesn't help me. I need a long bed. So I'm actually.
I had to do the same thing. I sold my Toyota truck, and it's a newer model, and I sold it for a '96 Ford F-150 with a long bed, just because it was more efficient for doing this kind of stuff, for sure. You did mention organization, so I do think it's important to go a little bit over that as far as once you get yourself out of this hump, what you should be doing from henceforth, which would be making sure that for me, the biggest improvement that I've seen with my workflow has been making sure I have a queue for everything. There is a queue, right? So you're not starting this until you finished this, or if you do, have a queue for how all that works. So for me, it's like, okay, I have, say I pick up from this thrift store that's nearby me. Once I pick that up, it goes into my queue, whether it's first in line or last in line. And I go through that collection, and I move on to the next collection, move on to the next collection. And you're able to kind of, however your warehouse space is set up. For me personally, again, when I use these, I'll have all of them set up, all of them stacked up, and I'll put a sticky note on top of it. It's like X thrift store. I'm not looking at it until I finish the one before it, because it's easy to do that, but it's also easy to get disorganized doing something like that as well. And I'm one for believing that keeping up with where things come from is important, because you'll know if it's worth doing, because I think that's important. Just because somebody's willing to give you books doesn't mean that you're getting good books.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen that, and that's just a part of it sometimes. But when you can learn something is consistently not giving you good books, that's a part of that as well. And as far as if you're not getting a lister, or if you want to list in addition to that, have set scheduled days out of the week where you are not available for pickups. Like, let it be Monday, Thursday, whatever that might be, to where you're listing. Even if you have a lister, also have at least a day out of the week where you're doing nothing but listing as well. Currently, right now, I was originally kind of backed up a little bit on my books that needed to be listed, but now I'm trying to keep up with my lister, because as you know, we're going through 90 times the stuff that they're processing to list, just going through it. So eventually they'll catch up to you. And if they're not, if your lister isn't able to keep up with what you're at, then you spend that one day out of the week at least doing all these listings, because it doesn't matter how much you get, how much good inventory you've got. If it is not in the store, it's not making you any money. So definitely focus on getting your stuff listed, and whether it be through somebody helping you or you doing it yourself. But if one of those two things has got to happen if you really want to be successful with it, or you're going to become, like, paying for a storage unit is really just not is not good at all. I would, unless you have some really good collection sitting somewhere that you've got to process, or you've picked up a massive collection and you need the space as you're going through it, don't pay for a storage unit just to hold books that you haven't processed yet. Focus on clearing that stuff out. Give yourself a clean slate so that you can start with organization in whatever way that needs to be. But you can be honest with your people, tell them you've got to take a pause. People are understanding, and you'll miss out on some, but you just call them back up again, because they had a problem before you. They're going to have a problem after you too, and you may lose some people, but you'll if you keep doing this, you're going to find more. There are so many sources out there for this.
It's a learning process, and there's a lot of aha moments. I definitely love, and I've been talking to the wife about getting someone to help with the listing, because that is the most time consuming part of it. And so her son actually has shown some interest in helping out. He's 21, and so he'd be able to come here to the house, and I could just say those five boxes right there, I'll sort them first to know it's stuff that I want to keep. So it's not junk. It's not, I won't know its value, but at least I'll know these are possible books right here to let him go through it. And like you said, train him, let him do the scan. Just having someone help
Yeah,
is going to be
I
key.
I would definitely try myself if you're doing something, being the one processing it, because people can miss things or mess that kind of stuff up often. And if you're going to pay for somebody, pay for them to list the stuff that you've already found and that you know is good to be sent.
Right.
That's
Right.
100%. I would that if you're going to have somebody do that. Let's keep rolling because I don't want to miss out on time with
Nope.
Robbie.
Is there something right off the bat that either Ray talked about that you want to chime in on, or something in your business that we need to do a deep dive into?
The organization part was fantastic.
Mhm.
And realizing that as well, Max, you had mentioned as far as putting your things on the bookshelves,
Sure.
which I have. So I have my queue set up as
Mhm.
far as things that are going to go out to Amazon, things that I've listed already on eBay. And so I know, hey, I can just go over there and grab it, once it's sold and box it up. I received a new box yesterday. So I immediately went through those and tried to list those. So yeah, the organization and saying queue for everything, tightening, getting that in a tight order really would help me a lot.
The
So
books,
Absolutely.
the books that you're listing for eBay, are you giving each book a shelf number and a space? So I'm not worried about what you're selling now. I'm worried about 3 months, a year from now, as you have 8 shelves worth of books and you know how to it sells and you know where to grab it right off the bat.
I was going alphabetized.
That's fine. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
that's fine. That's what I do. If my
Okay.
first shelf is the letter A, and then how many shelves are in there? A1, A2, A3, A4. I just want to make sure you're starting that process now, and
Yes.
you don't come back to it in 3 months. I want to make sure you continue that going forward.
Well, I only have 4 slots right now, so I
Oh,
don't have a ton yet.
that's right now. Just wait. So was there something in your questions that you sent us that you definitely wanted us to hit upon?
Starting with FBA,
Okay, great.
the whole they lose a book in a shipment.
How many how many shipments have you sent in?
Probably 8.
Okay. So I've just to be transparent and honest with you about it. I've sent in boxes for years now. I've only had one book that is technically two books that there was an issue with the shipment. One said it was missing from the shipment, and one said that I had a quantity of 2, but they only received a quantity of 1. Okay. That was and the mistake happened, which was I printed out 2 barcodes for one book and put that second barcode on the one that's missing from the shipment. You get what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's yeah. So, but anyway, it is more than likely if they haven't found the book yet at this point, because that's something that can happen. Yeah, I haven't experienced that personally, but they
Mhm.
can say it's missing, and then all of a sudden it'll show up later. It hasn't happened to me, but my guess is there might have been either an issue with maybe your printer wasn't printing out barcodes properly, so that they weren't scannable. And so it caused that sort of issue, or maybe mislabeling,
Okay.
or maybe during the workflow, I don't know, maybe was it your first box by chance that
No, it
happened to?
wasn't. In the previous box, yeah,
Yeah,
like 3 boxes ago. And then I guess by the time they caught it, I'd already sent a couple boxes after that. And,
Yeah,
so,
so my guess is it might have been a mistake like in the listing
yeah,
process, or like I said, a
sure.
barcode issue, because just from my experience personally, um in the years that I've done it, I've only had something like that happen once, and it was my own
Okay.
mistake. And I
Okay.
realized because when I saw how it was, I realized it, and I removed those books, and I found that the one that had the quantity of, it had 2 of it instead of the 1 quantity that was expected. It had the barcode of that copy, but it was on the book that was missing from the box. You get what I'm
Okay.
saying? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. It
yeah.
could
So
have been
stuff,
user error. Okay.
yeah, it definitely could have been. Now it may have not, but I want to tell you that that is going to be such a marginal, if there is an issue on Amazon side, marginal
Okay.
portion of this. I would so marginal that I wouldn't even sweat it at all. I
Okay.
wouldn't let that be a factor and what you decide to do moving forward with it, because
Okay.
it's not something that's going to happen often. Speaking from personal experience, and I'm sure there's other people who've done, been in the game for a minute too, that they would probably tell you the exact same thing. It's not something to worry about.
Robbie, have all 8 boxes arrived to their destinations already?
Oh, yes.
Then I think you're winning the game then.
Mhm.
Okay.
Like Cody said, that book's probably going to pop up somewhere along the line. But I would be more worried that the boxes during this time of year haven't arrived. But since you say
Right.
they have, I think you're in good
Right.
graces there.
And just Robbie
Okay.
too, make sure what you can do to make sure that your barcodes are scanning properly is just scan the barcode that comes out. It's not gonna pop up anywhere, but if you
Right.
scan it with your scanner, it'll make a sound that it's reading it.
Right.
And because
Okay.
I almost made that mistake once where I was filling up a box, and then I was paying attention. I was like, man, this barcode, it's printing out like really small. The lines don't seem like they're in the right place, and I'd go to scan it and it wasn't scanning at all. None of them were scanning. So yeah, that's something that can happen, and you don't have to check that with every single one, but as
Right.
you're going through, you can just, if things don't look right or if you're concerned, that's a way to check that sort of thing. But the last thing about that is just obviously being diligent with how you with the listing process, because as you guys know, that's the most important part of it. You can find all the great books in the world, but if you're sending in stuff and things there's issues with that, then you're not going to make any money from it.
Right.
Cody, when I'm looking at Robbie's questions, I think definitely because of what Ray had said earlier, question number 4 for her is something that we definitely should tackle today. She's still struggling with Keepa.
Mhm.
She feels like she's missing some elements to it. So I definitely think this is something that's going to propel her forward if we can get that solution for her today.
So what is your key? What is your understanding of how Keepa works? You don't have to give me a full breakdown, but like just bare bones, what's your impression of Keepa?
Looking at the what it sold for, as far as the history, I'm not sure whether or not I should stick with, 6 months, a year, how long. So that's my part where I really don't understand that part of it. Choosing the correct algorithm, I guess, as far as how often it sells and what it sold for. So I'm kind of like confused on all the little lines.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's
So
lots to choose from.
for sure. I totally get that. Let me do this real quick because this might help us. Okay, so bare bones as far, I'm just going to kind of talk like you guys may not know anything about it, but if you do, that's totally fine. The bare bones is this black line. What this represents right here is what the lowest average sell price is of the book. Okay. And right here are the dates. Okay. So you can click down here on the bottom and go between a day, 3 months, a year, all time that it's been available on Keepa. Okay. So this is what the average sell price, and it's going corresponding through here. This green line represents the sales rank. You guys both, do you guys know how to, like, what sales rank is in general?
Yes.
Yeah, when it sells. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so so this book, before I had sent it in, was up to 1.5 million at some point. Don't know why, but it did. And if you were to be using your scanning software, especially some of the basic triggers, when it was at this sales rank, it may have told you it's a dud if you were scanning when it was at that price. So, but as far as how to read it, right here, this green line represents that sales rank, and when it dips down, when it goes, most of the time, that means that the book has sold. And that's the way I would not stress getting, you don't have to understand every bit of Keepa to understand that, right? If a green line goes down, it's a book sell most of the time. So this is how I don't have an example of like a odd price book right in front of me, or I'd show you guys that. But let's say for the last 3 months, right in through there, there were no copies available. That's where what you're able to utilize to determine if that book, you're going to pull up on Keepa to determine if that book actually has value, because you scan it, it's not going to pull any data up for you. These scouting tools and your repricing tools have no way of actually knowing how to price a book based off of what it sells for. They just know how to price a book based off of what is currently listed, okay? Because they're only going off of listed prices. They're not going through and checking Amazon sales. They're just seeing what is actively out there right now, okay?
That's a huge difference right there. That's
Yeah,
That's huge.
yeah. So that's the difference between, I mean, like you can see that this is a perfect example right here, okay? We're going to zoom in on this side. Book was listed up to the lowest average sale price was $120. Do you see anything in correspondence with that?
Hmm.
What do you guys see right here? When this price went up well above what it was normally selling for, what happened?
It didn't
Didn't
stop.
sell.
It did
Yeah.
not sell. It didn't sell until you see these dips. So these dips are not going to lie to you. Okay, this is what the book is selling for. This is at least on the lowest end, which I especially with long tail books recommend pricing them around that number, because you want to move the book, right? You want to move the book quickly. And if you're worrying about a book that has dips where it's at like $6 or $7, move on with your life. It's not a book that's worth your time, because there are plenty of other books you're going to find coming through that are going to be good. So when you're seeing, let's say the book prices were just like this, but instead it was kind of the opposite, where there were no sales when it was at the $60 range, and the lowest price was like $7 or $8 throughout here, and you saw dips. Well, that tells you that the book sells when it was like $6 or $8 versus
Okay.
60 or plus. So that's and again, the sales rank is only when you have the paid version of Keepa. So you're not going to see anything about sales rank without the paid version of Keepa. And
Right.
Keepa is basic. I mean, it's not 100% useless, but it's basically useless if you can't see the sales rank drops, because you don't know what the book is actually selling for. All you're seeing is what the lowest average sell prices of the book listed in that time frame.
Right. I have the sales, the paid version. So the biggest thing then, knowing that after looking at that, choosing the correct price, so you're saying if I say I choose to sell that at 55 because, it's a little bit lower than what it sold for. The goal is to move the book, right?
Absolutely.
The price points. You want to know about price points.
Yeah.
Right.
So this line represents the lowest average sales price. So this is the bottom end, basically, the lowest
Okay.
average sell price. And that's what I tend to price stuff at if there is like, let's say, especially if it's a super slow seller book. Now, a book like this actually sells, I'd say, is a kind of a fast selling book, considering it's a vintage book. You're using FBA to your advantage as well. So I don't know, are you doing merchant fulfilled as well?
No.
Okay, that's totally fine. We'll get you there, because if you're listed eBay, you definitely need to be. We'll definitely have you listed. Again, this is just one example. And again, we'll probably talk more. So just make sure you're there for the shows, because we're almost every week we bring up Keepa at some point in time. But yeah, this one is a relatively fast selling book. So I priced my book at almost $90, and it sold. I'll tell you why. Another benefit to using FBA versus merchant fulfilled on a long tail book. This one's not necessarily long tail. Sometimes it is, but on a long tail book is, if nobody else is on that FBA listing, right? You can price your book, and you'll almost, if you're matching around where the merchant fulfilled price is, especially on a long tail book, you're almost certainly going to be the next sale. Okay. So this book I priced with the FBA bump. Okay. So the prime bump, because somebody knew that they can click prime and they'll get there faster, and they just trust that. And that's fine to do when a book sells fast, right? But on the books that are not fast, you want to make sure that you're pricing comparative to the merchant fulfilled offers. Why exactly, I don't know, but if I were to guess, the collector's market for these types, usually that's what these books end up being, is they're collectible books, and they're fine waiting, because they're already paying a decent amount of money, they're fine waiting for a merchant fulfilled shipment to come in if it means that they're not paying an extra $20 for the same book, versus the faster selling books like this. So each book, I wish I could just tell you like always do this, but each book is usually evaluated separately from another. Faster moving books, I'm fine putting a higher price on FBA because I know that people are more likely going to pay that higher price compared to what the book is at now. Because I mean, if we look right here, used, okay, I sold mine for, it was like $87. Merchant fulfilled, the lowest prices right now are like 70 and $71. But because there was no FBA competition, I priced mine higher, and it sold for a higher price. But if we'll say that this book, just as an example, were to be a 4 million ranked book, right? I would be pricing my book at whatever the lowest merchant fulfilled price is, if that price is one that it sold at. So that price might not even be what the book actually sells for. So that's where Keepa comes into play as well. Is like, okay, does the book sell for this merchant fulfilled price at $70? Okay, it does. Then I'm going to match that price and put it in FBA. I'll make a little bit less money than the merchant fulfilled offers will, but I know I'm going to be the next sale, which is the key for these long tail books. And if you go through Keepa and you see, it's all merchant fulfilled copies, and it's listed for, they're all at $70, but you go through Keepa and you're like, oh, well, they're listed at $70, but when I scroll back a year to when the book was selling, it was selling for $30. That's the price that I would put the book at. And that's the beautiful part of Keepa is as simple as I could put it, it tells you everything you need to know. There's no reason to let this be, it may look overwhelming because there's lines, but if you don't think of it so much as a graph, and think of it more as just like you're doing it, it's breaking down eBay comps in an easy way, right? So eBay comps is showing you pictures under solds of what the book sold for, and you're scrolling through and looking at all that stuff. But instead of doing all the scrolling and making sure you had that what sold was actually the same one, because sometimes the keywords, no, this is this exact book, and it's all in one place. It's so amazing to be able to utilize this. And if you're not, especially if you're selling long tail books on FBA, which there's nothing wrong with that, you have to have Keepa. You have to have it. Is a must for the business.
Yeah, and it is one extra step. I know we talk about this on Thursdays all the time, but this step is going to be the difference maker for you every day of your business. And Cody, is it advisable for Robbie to be looking at 3-month first or 1 year first when she's looking at a book?
Yeah, well, I mean, the standard is 3 months, which is totally fine for a book like this, where you've got sales dips all the time. But it, again, this is where I say it. Each book is always going to be different. So if you were to see either no sales or maybe one sale, that's when you pull up. Okay, then I'm going to go a year,
Right.
and so on and so on and so on, depending on how many sales you're actually seeing.
Right, because we've talked about this on the Thursday Zoom calls, but sometimes these books will be seasonally. I know that Cody and I talked about this morning. He sold a book yesterday or today, a Boy Scout book out of season, but it did sell. But I'm sure when Cody did the homework on that, he recognized it was a seasonal book. So he has to pull out to the year and not the 3-month variable there.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and those are the types of books that you can either have. Again, this goes back to organization. You don't want to just set anything aside without putting any sort of note on it. Keep sticky notes all over the place. That's my first recommendation. Have sticky notes and write down what something is if it is getting sat down and you're not doing something with it right then. Put down a note for what it's going for, why it's going there, so that way you don't get lost, because it is. I'm telling you, so especially if you're doing this, I think, Robbie, you're not necessarily picking up bulk, but you're more so going and sourcing at different places and pulling that way, which is much easier to keep organized than the bulk side of things. Not that it's easy, but it's a lot easier in comparison to pulling all that stuff into a warehouse and doing. But even still, always having notes on where things are going, why things are where they are, it makes your life so much easier later down the line.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think one of the common themes here right now for today's episode is being organized from the get-go, Ray. The
Right.
more you're organized from the get-go, it's going to make the process of getting that book into your garage, getting it listed on eBay or Amazon, and then eventually sold. Everything is about the organization from the beginning and making it less of a headache for you.
Are there any other like key points in your business right now that have you hung up? It doesn't have to be something you sent us ahead of time. It could be something that you just thought about, anything like that.
No, this actually answered a lot. And the biggest thing is, like you said, I recognize that you need to, lack of a better term, feed the beast, right? Continue,
Yes.
sending your books in for FBA. So I have a box that I should have sent last week, but it's still sitting there because I'm like, oh, let me add a couple more books to it. So
Oh,
that makes it.
yeah, I'm recognizing a question you did send us. Cody, let's look at question 7 because this is going to help out both Robbie and Ray. I'll read it out loud. How do I decide between posting on Amazon or eBay? I think this is perfect for today's episode. And Cody, I'll let you start with the process and I'll jump in if I need.
So for me personally, again, this is the kind of question that is based off of how you want your business to run and what kind of business you're wanting to operate. So it is a little bit more of a personal level question based off of what you're trying to do. But for me personally, I always go for Amazon first and eBay second, because if I can find it on Amazon, it's super easy to keep track of. I can either send it into FBA or put it on, for a merchant fulfilled listing. And it's just the repricer does a lot of work for you that you don't have to do. You don't have to take pictures. You can just post it up. If you need to put a description, you can put a description about the book. That is 100% the start for me. And then secondly, if either I can't find the book on Amazon, well, that's pretty much the only reason. If I can't find the book on Amazon, or say I've got something that may not necessarily be good by itself, but will do really well bundled together, something like that, or the really big sets. You may do well on Amazon for some really big sets, merchant filled as well, but oftentimes those are going to go more on eBay for me. And I have a minimum price. If I'm going to put the work into eBay for myself, I've got to be making at least $20 on an item, like bare minimum, just because of the time investment that you have to make on it. Like, that bare minimum price also is based off of how fast I think it'll sell as well. So like if I think it's going to take a year to sell, well, that minimum price is going to go up because it's going to take up space. And it's also dependent on how much space it takes up as far as what makes what makes a decision as if at the price point. If it's a little pamphlet, it may take a year to sell, but it's $20, that's fine. It takes up virtually no space. But if it's a 10 volume set of books, and I'm going to make $20, well, it needs to sell pretty quick, or else, it's like not really worth the space.
That's a great question. And we get that question. Cody and I get that question all the time. And again, to be transparent, Cody and I talk about these kinds of books every day of our lives. We look at books that we both get, and we're talking ourselves into which platform we think is best. And sometimes it could be just as odd as an old yearbook. Cody, I remember we talked about a yearbook 2 or 3 months ago that had a moderately famous baseball player in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think we finally decided that eBay would have been the best platform for that type of book. So yeah, every book is going to be a snowflake. It's going to have its own story and its own history. But I think, Cody, you might agree with me here. They're not going to go wrong with either platform. As long as you have the data and you read the data correctly, the book is going to sell on either platform. You just want to make sure that, like Cody says, Cody can use Keepa and he can have an idea how quickly that book will move FBA, FBM, or if he chooses to go eBay, he's gonna have all of the information he needs at his fingertips, and that's why it's so important to understand the data.
Yeah. One last thing I will say about that is you can also factor in the supply of the platforms. So let's say that Amazon has, now for me, I tend to just go Amazon either way most of the time. But if Amazon has 5 copies of a book that sells for $150, but eBay has none, there are people that are married to their platforms. So you could post that guy up on eBay and might be able to get 200 versus Amazon 150. And same goes doubled. Just in general, books sell for more money on Amazon in general. So like an example I brought up of one of my favorite sales of all time, it's not a crazy expensive book, but it was one that there were no copies available on Amazon. It was actually when I scanned the ISBN up, it came up as the South Beach Diet Cookbook or something like that. But in reality, it was a book called How to Make $100,000 Off 25 Acres of Land. And there were no copies available on Amazon. I checked eBay. There were no copies available on eBay. I looked at the prices. It was selling for roughly around $150. But since the supply was zero on 2 of the biggest platforms for these books, I priced mine at $350, and it sold within a week. So I create, you're able to you can set the price of a book when there's nothing out there. Especially if it's something that people are wanting, and that one had sales in the past, it just, there was nothing out there for it. So it's kind of like that squeeze. The market has a squeeze. Like there's people looking for this book, and if it's collectible enough or important enough to somebody, they're willing to pay a higher price, and you can set the new standard for the price of that book almost.
And let's
And
highlight
that was merchant fulfilled.
That was FBA. That was sent in an FBA box and sold in a week.
Let's highlight this idea too, because I remember that book. This book was within the past year. When there are no copies available on Amazon and there are no copies available on eBay, I can 100% guarantee you there are people looking for that book, which proves Cody's point. He sent it in, it sold within a week. But I can also guarantee you that people have chosen to look for that book under saved searches. And so as soon as that book pops up, they're getting a notification. This book is now available, whereas 24 hours ago or an hour before, that book was unavailable. Now those notifications are out, and now that book sells as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
So
I will say there's another side to that coin too. There are also just some books that, just so you know, there may not be copies available of, but they may just be no copies because it's not a good book. It may be a self-published book that didn't do well. Some self-published books I love. Max knows I love my self-published stuff.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be for a Thursday night Zoom call for sure.
Yeah. But the main point is there are like books like that you'll see, oh, there's no copies, and when you go through and go deep, it's just there's no copies for a reason. So
and I can definitely say this because I've seen both of what you guys have been bringing into your homes and your garage. You guys are on the verge of really starting to crush this business. The things that you found this weekend, Robbie, I was in awe of. And Ray, I know you're doing those pickups every day. It's just been amazing. Always keep in mind, there's going to be a marketplace. You have to make the decision. You don't have to vacillate for 3 hours on a book. Make the decision using the data and get rid of the book, because you both already know this. The books are everywhere. We keep saying this every time we talk, and it's on the Discord every day. The books are everywhere. Don't let one book hold you up or stall you in the business. Make the decision and move on.
And as far as that organization goes, I know we're closing up, but you guys, I believe both of you guys were there last week when we talked about it. At least from my end of Ray, this is kind of targeted more towards you as far as organization goes. But that what I talked about, I spent probably like 20 or 30 minutes talking about my workflow, and that is a key target in with that organization, is how you're processing these books, right? So there are days where I'm going through and I'm just scanning from that collection, And then I've set aside, then even if you add it to another part of a queue, you let the harder ones to identify be a part of another day, or whatever it might be. Just getting through the bulk of your stuff is the best you're going to be able to do to be able to keep stuff going fast. Just get through the bulk of it as fast as you can. It's enticing. I know how enticing it is to just want to go through some of like your signed book, like, oh, is this valuable? But that's gonna take an extra 10 minutes out of your time. And when you find
Right.
6 of those, that's an hour.
Mhm.
That's a whole hour out of your day. So it's definitely important to try, especially Ray, to get through the bulk of your stuff, because if not, you will be literally swimming in books. You will have a book pool to try and process. So definitely.
Well, this concludes episode 1 of the Paper Goat Excavation Show. I want to thank you both. On behalf of Cody and I, thank you both for sending in those questions. I know we only got to a few of them, but that shows you how deep and how meaningful these questions are to helping you get the answers you need. We are part of the Paper Gold Patreon group, which meets every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any interest in that group, for those of you watching this post production, there will be a link underneath, and we will always answer your questions. Cody, anything in closing?
No, if you take anything from this, if you are not listing, you're not making money. If you're not making money, you don't have a business. At the end of the day, that's just the truth of it. And you will burn out, and you will give up, or just or continue to suffer for a long time. And that's no fun for anybody. And we want everybody that's a part of our community to succeed. And that is the number one step that you guys should be taking, is getting your stuff either listed eBay, listed Amazon, sent in, merchant filled, whatever it might be. That has got to be your priority number one. And if other things are in the way, you've got to make some hard decisions and cut what's not doing it for you.
The more money you make, the more excited you'll be about this, but definitely stay organized and get the books out there.